Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, March 12th, 2018. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Foster.
Here.
Commissioner Pelleton.
Here.
Commissioner Alvani.
Here.
Commissioner Shelley.
Here.
Commissioner Wolf.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. First on our agenda is the approval of the minutes.
Oh, I'd like to move, sorry,
It's okay.
caught me flat-footed. I'd like to move to approve the minutes for the February 12th, 2018 regular board meeting.
I'll second that.
Are there any comments or corrections? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Pelleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Alvani.
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf.
Yes. Thank you very much. Another set of minutes.
All right, I move to approve the minutes for the September 16th, 2015 Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll second. Any comments or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Pelleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Alvani.
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf.
Yes. And one more set of minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes for the September 23rd, 2015 Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll second that.
Are there any comments or corrections to the September 23rd Committee of the Whole meeting minutes? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Pelleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Alvani.
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf.
Yes. Thank you. Next on our agenda is communications and correspondence. I don't believe there was any in the packet, but did any commissioners have any that they would like to share? All right, we'll be moving on then. Next up is recognition of visitors. Is there anyone that would like to address us in the audience? Yes, Mr. Crystal.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Hey, Ronnie.
Hi. Before I start, if you have anything to say about anything that has to do with me, that I said or whatever, please do so while I'm standing right here in front of you. If you choose to talk about it later, I reserve the right to come back to the podium and address it on the spot. So we won't have the situation we had last month.
Actually, Mr. Crystal, if there are any comments, we'll address them now, but later in the meeting, it's not appropriate for you to come up and address us again. So even if it has to do with something that you mentioned.
I understand, but I will come to the podium.
Okay, well, you might not be recognized. I'm just going to let you know.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Scott Graham used to be a homeless man sleeping next to the dumpster under this building, which is the Wilmette Village Hall and the headquarters of the Wilmette Park District. Now Mr. Graham is a rent-paying Wilmette resident. In order to help him move forward and have a good life, I'm asking the Wilmette Park District Board of Park to make Mr. Graham an honorary member of the Wilmette Sailing Beach and grant Mr. Graham a free membership to the Wilmette Sailing Beach. I want to take this opportunity and thank Mr. Steve Wilson, unfortunately he's not here today, for helping change Mr. Graham's life. I will submit it in writing, and my name is at the bottom. Okay. I will submit all the papers at the end. Now I would like to talk about the entrance control at the Wilmette Sailing Beach. The definition of the word discrimination is the unjust or prejudicial treatment of different categories of people. This is exactly what has been happening at the sailing beach for years. There are people that come as often as they wish and pay nothing. If you ask them how do they get in, they will tell you, we just wave. Last year, my daughter brought a friend and gave the guard a guest pass. The guard gave the guest pass to her back. It's like beyond me. Last year, Commissioner Pelleton and I drove into the sailing beach. And the guard didn't even look at us. He went and played with his friend, and we're paying for this. Just like every other Park District facility, everyone has to show a pass at the entrance. And the person at the gate has to have the equipment to be able to check, just like the pool or the tennis court or anywhere else. We brought it up in the past to no avail, so here we are right now. It's time to stop this Wilmette Park District discriminatory practice. Okay, now we'll go back to the porta potties. The sailors asked the Lakefront Committee to replace the nasty porta potties with decent toilets at the sailing beach. This is what we have done so far. We sent pictures of the nasty porta potties. We proposed a solution of upgraded trailer toilet facilities. We gave you a detailed written proposal by a manufacturer of these trailers, and even the two checks for the $50,000 for the 3-year loan, which we got back. Everything that we have done was declined by Commissioner Pelleton with the excuse that the committee is working on the beach house and parking lot project. Now things are slowing down on that project. Even Mr. Tinucci didn't think there was any reason for him to be at the next Lakefront Committee meeting. So now we, the sailors, demand that you solve this nasty porta potties issue for this 2018 sailing season that starts in exactly 2 months from today. For the beginning of the season, the only choice you have right now is to rent these trailers, which is easy to do. All you got to do is ask the Lakefront manager, Ms. Holly Speck, to take care of it. We won't tell you what will happen if you decline for this justified demand, but as a start, you should look at a new website which is called WilmetteParkExposed.com, which is the Wilmette residents' new website. Commissioner Pelleton has led you into a minefield. This is, of course, a figure of speech. We don't want any misunderstanding here. Military doctrine says that the deeper one goes into a minefield, the chance of things to go against them increases. They teach soldiers to turn around, follow their own footsteps out, and figure out quickly another way to move forward. This wisdom is also true in civilian life. Commissioner Pelleton has failed to understand that he has volunteered to serve the public. He has failed to see that he is outnumbered and time works against him too. And I was kind and I didn't bring you pictures of the door.
Okay. Is there more to this? I don't think we need to be bashing on any commissioners up here.
Don't be surprised if you show up at Gilson Beach this summer and have to contend with extremely angry women.
Okay, wait, Mr. Crystal,
Yes.
Are you threatening us then?
No, I'm not threatening anybody. I'm not threatening anybody.
Then what are you?
I'm just telling you, we will keep increase the pressure on you with public relations guerrilla tactics until we hear from you that the sailing beach will have decent toilets.
Okay, I think we understand what you're trying to tell us.
We want decent toilets. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's
Okay.
that simple.
Okay, you don't need to get upset.
And we
about it.
want it in 2 months. Okay. Now I have two requests from the Park District under the Freedom of Information Act.
Anything that's a Freedom of Information Act, you'll have to request in writing, please.
It is in writing.
Okay, that's
Right
fine.
here. I know the rules.
Okay.
Okay. First, we'll start with the 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016 and 2017 Gilson Sailing Beach Line item revenues and expenses to see how much money was generated by each category of the beach, like kayaks, SUP, catamarans, etc. I request a waiver of all fees associated with this request. This information is needed to find out why the Park District doesn't have money for decent toilets at the sailing beach. So that's the first request.
Can I point out that that's all publicly available on our website?
Okay.
But we'll be happy to take your request and look into
Yeah.
it.
The second one,
You can actually have it right here. You want this?
okay, I'll take it later.
No, I mean, this is a public document. It just was
Right,
given.
right.
So you don't need a FOIA request for a public document.
Okay. The second one is for the pirate ship playground remodeling. I'm looking for documents that show the exact cost of every single item, cost of each fish swing, stonework, concrete work, etc. Is that also available online?
Not to that detail.
Okay, I'm requesting the detail. That's why
Okay,
I'm
we can take your
requesting it.
request. You don't have to
Okay.
just tell us verbally.
Okay. I request a waiver of all fees associated with this request. It will be used in comparison to industry standards to make sure that the Park District does not spend our money frivolously.
Okay.
And
We
this is
can-
my last comment.
Okay.
Commissioner Pelleton, last month you presented a position regarding the parking lot that was never mine as if it was.
It was what? I'm sorry, repeat that?
Last month, you presented a position regarding the parking lot that was never mine as if it was mine.
I don't understand what
He
that
said,
means.
basically, he said that I support expansion of the parking lot, which I never do.
I understand what you're
Okay.
saying. Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. You either didn't understand my position or simply lied here to the public. I really don't know which one of the two options is true. If you didn't understand a simple position like that, it means that you are not qualified
Okay,
to be on this
wait.
board.
We're not going to, again, we're
Yes.
not going to disparage any of the commissioners.
I'm
or-
not disparaging. I'm just saying my comments, and I have my right to say what
You can say what you
I
like,
said.
but
So,
please don't
Yeah,
be negative towards commissioners.
I'm just saying the truth, just like he did.
Well, it's your opinion, like you said.
Right. It's my opinion, and I'm here to express it. If you didn't understand a simple position like that, it means that you're not qualified to be on this board. If you lied about it, you definitely don't deserve to be
Yeah,
on this
sir,
board.
this is out of
And I'm
line.
calling you to resign.
Sir, this is out of line.
Yes, I can call him to resign. It's my right.
Okay, but you don't have
Right.
to.
Okay. Now, when I asked at the Lakefront Committee
Yeah.
for help to locate a homeless man who was living and wondering about Park District properties, you asked me not to bring up matters that don't relate to the Park District. It took about 20 seconds of your time in order to help a homeless man. We're not here to judge anybody's character, but the fact that you didn't recognize.
okay.
Listen, this is Park District issues, and you need to
no,
listen.
no.
And if you don't, get out of the room.
Excuse me, you're
Yeah.
out of order. You can't
That's
tell me
fine.
to get out of the room.
I have 3 more sentences, and I will finish them.
Okay, but can you calm your tone down and
Yes,
be respectful
yes.
of all the commissioners and everybody up here? We
I'm
are all
respectful.
volunteers
But if you
giving
don't
our
wanna
time.
listen to
I
the
do.
public, you shouldn't be here.
I do
It's
want to
that
listen.
simple.
I want to listen,
Have.
but I want
We
you to be
have.
respectful, please.
That's fine.
Okay,
I'm
please
fine.
finish your.
Okay. Please don't put
Thank
your
you.
hands on me. Thank you.
Okay, please finish your
Okay.
comments
I will.
respectfully and no accusations and no demanding anything.
I can demand whatever I want.
You can, but
But the fact that you didn't recognize that that homeless people on Park District properties is Park District issue is highly problematic. And to make it simple, I call you to resign. Thank you for your
thank you for your comments, and
patience.
we will take everything into consideration.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Anybody else? Okay. Next on our agenda is the approval of the voucher list.
And I'll just say a couple things.
Oh.
Obviously, Commissioner Pendleton is more than qualified to sit on this board, and his work with regard especially to the lakefront has been, although we don't always agree on every issue, greatly been appreciated by me. He's overseen some meetings of the Lakefront Committee that, while not always easy, certainly has pushed the project along. This board and these commissioners have been empowered to act on the public's behalf. Therefore, our opinions and how the design has been moved forward is all extremely relevant. We've responded to the community surveys and tried to pursue a design that has been relevant and in line with the wishes of this community. So, Mr. Crystal is expressed displeasure with our decisions and the direction for many meetings now, and it keeps ramping up. But we're just doing our jobs. That's all.
Thank you.
And you have my confidence, and that's all.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none, let's move along to approval of the voucher list, please.
I move to approve the voucher list in the amount of $1,397,195.08, a copy of which is to be attached to and become a permanent part of the minutes of this meeting.
Any comments? Oh, sorry, do I hear a second? Any comments or corrections?
I had a question, which we may or may not have somebody here who can answer, but what was the budget for the sound system for Centennial? Does anybody know off the...
I don't know, Steve might.
I thought it was $90,000 as well, and revised up to $90,000, right?
I believe so.
The first budget wasn't, okay. All right, and we came in right at that, pretty much right at that number. All right, thank you, Steve.
Steve, I actually have the unaudited financials. Would it be in here from last year?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. That's it, that was
Okay,
my only.
any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Alvani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes. Next up would normally be our executive director's report. Steve Wilson is out sick with the flu, so unfortunately he's not here this evening to give that, so we will have his report next month. All right, moving along, committee reports. First up is the Lakefront Committee.
Give me just a second.
Take your time.
All right. The Lakefront Committee met last Monday, March 5th at Malincrot. We had a comparatively brief meeting, so I decided that I would try and give a brief report. We had a number of visitors once again, and the discussion centered around the parking lot, trees in the parking lot, or around the parking lot, and the number of spaces in the lot. The architects had produced some alternative plans. We were at about 310 spaces. He came with proposals for 319, 325, and 335 spaces by reducing some of the tree wells within the parking lot and carving out some areas that were designated previously for plantings. And the committee decided that they liked the combination of adding spaces to the tune of 325, which is nice because our original figure that we had started working with was approximately 327, so we're almost right at where we wanted to be to start out with. The tree issue is still to be determined, but Andy Tanucci assured us that as long as he had the number of spaces, he could move forward with the civil drawings, and that the location of the trees, the number of trees, and that sort of thing could be determined later on. He has to do a survey to determine how many trees are going to be removed, where they're going to be removed, what types are going to be added, and that sort of thing. And only after he comes back with that information and his recommendations can we really determine whether we want to pursue a variance or not. And he said that he's going to need about 2 months to finalize the details before he has anything really meaningful to show us. And so we're going to be planning on a very interesting meeting when he comes back to discuss that. But we may or may not have a meeting this next month, depending on how much business there is outside of the Lakefront project. In addition, Holly reported, I found this interesting, I don't know if anybody else will, but we've been discussing the wait list for the Sailing Beach for some time. And there were 48 total spots that came available. That includes 10 SUPs, 22 monohulls, 4 lasers, and 12 catamaran spots. And so they're calling the people on the waiting list. What I thought was the most interesting was what the wait list was. So there are 23 people on the wait list for catamarans, 2 for lasers. So assuming that they want them, that'll be taken care of. 166 for the monohulls and a whopping 295 for SUPs. Now those are SUPs on the sailing beach, not in the south satellite SUP section. But while we're making some progress, the capacity or the interest in SUPs seems to be outpacing our ability to make progress, and we just can't fit a whole lot more boats. Well, we can't fit really any more boats than we already have permitted down at that sailing beach. And camp registration, aquatics camp is tremendously popular, so popular that they decided to increase the number of campers per section up from 70 to 80, and they have about 500 kids enrolled. So that's super fantastic. So that, in a nutshell, is what we discussed.
Excellent. Any questions?
Well, a couple things to add. The 325, basically Woodhouse Tanucci, parking places, came up with those without really kind of getting too deep in terms of adding spaces in places that we didn't want to. There were some other options, but we viewed that he neither really strongly recommended them, nor did we like them. So we ended up with 325 instead of, in lieu of 327, but they made sense. He found the spots. He also, with regard to Andy, and they've been working on avenues of views of the lakefront through the trees by keeping trees kind of away from certain areas so that we don't block all the views. He didn't preclude the option of a variance, but it did seem like it was less important to him he did make some design shifts and changes in order to try to preserve views and still get all the trees that the village calls for. Finally,
Sounds like he's taking the community feedback.
I thought he did a nice job of it. So maybe there'll still be a variance, but maybe less need of it. And then finally, down at Langdon, it's that slope is getting very, very steep, and just the public should use some caution when, taking that path all the way down to the lakefront. Just be careful. That's all.
I was actually going to ask a question about that.
Sure.
I was actually just down there again a couple times this weekend. Is there discussion either at staff or at the committee about whether or not we're actually even going to have it open?
Yes.
This year.
That's what.
So what is
yes.
Tom Scanlon, actually, one of the residents came, not this meeting, but the previous one, and wanted to bring that to our attention. But, any of the commissioners who've been down there can see, right now, there's a 4-foot drop to get down to what's left of the beach when it's not terribly windy and the waves aren't too big. You can walk on the beach down there. And I asked about grading now in order to allow access so that you don't have to be a mountain goat to get down to the beach. And the response was that they wanted to wait until after the storm season before they considered what was going to be done in terms of grading and regrading. And Kathy is already said
that was last meeting, right? Was that this week?
No.
That was this past meeting.
I asked that question at this last meeting, but the meeting prior to
we started
was the one that Mr. Scanlon attended and brought it to our attention.
I'm there a lot. It's worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In the
Well, we discussed it last
30
week.
years. Yeah, the
And
30 years
that's-
I've been there,
I
I've
know.
never seen as
I
many
know.
rocks.
Right, and the rocks, I think, are the biggest problem. And so when the storms subside, prior to the start of the season, we're going to have to make a decision. And we'll get staff's recommendation about what it is they think can be done or should be done.
But one of the thoughts was with the rainy season approaching, spring, April, we were going to wait until
Do you want to just give
Yeah.
a quick update, Kathy? Thanks.
we were going to get through
Thank
that.
you.
before
Yeah,
we
we've
make-
been watching the situation there very carefully, and as Mr. Wilson mentioned at the last lakefront meeting, making plans as to what we will do, evaluating is whether or not it can be opened as a swimming beach or if it will not be able to be opened. And traditionally, towards the end of April is when we bring in the heavy machinery, for lack of a better word, to do our grading at the beach, and that's when we would bring them down there as we did last summer and actually created a path and an area so that we could get people down there. This year, the conditions are very different. We've never seen a cliff quite like what we have right now. So we're going to give it a little more time. We're going to see if we have any storms that majorly change the landscape down there. And if that, whichever way it goes, we're definitely going to know a month from now, 5 weeks from now, what we think we can do with that space. We'll have them help us evaluate what we can do.
And would one of our options be to essentially use that beach the way the Elmwood Dunes is being used?
That will
Because
probably,
we would need to supervise it in some form or fashion.
going back to what we were doing 10-plus years ago, is
Right.
not going to be an option down there.
Right.
So yes, we would have to probably monitor it on a regular basis, especially the weekends, to make sure that it's not being turned into the situation we had back before we were monitoring it. So there would be some type of a hybrid solution. Probably it stepped up from what we do at Elmwood, but a way to monitor what's going on down there.
But if you're asking, is there a plan to restore or add sand, or we haven't even considered that yet.
No, I think that reversing Mother Nature is
Yeah.
very
Hard to
People
do.
do all the time. But,
Yeah, I know.
Any other questions for the Lakefront Committee? Hearing none.
I was just going to add to Brian's comments on the variance. I think that Woodhouse Tanucci did a nice job in listening to the feedback and spreading the trees in such a way that they were still maintaining the views. However, there still is a push by some of the community for the variance, or just to make sure we're exploring all options. And that's when we discussed it at really great length. And just so you all understand, because we're losing a lot of trees with the project in itself, he needs to go back and figure out how many, to Ryrie's, Commissioner Peloton's point, to determine what the net is, and then we'll sort of reopen the conversation.
Great.
Just make sure that's clear.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, Facility Operations Committee.
Facilities did not meet this month, so we'll have a report next month.
Great, thank you. Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec met on February 19th. Registration for camps is moving forward. Get in. The two big issues, and these are both community issues, and I want to emphasize them. We're looking for community input. Both of them, depending on the neighborhood you're from, are really important. The first one is K Nature Center. Initial conceptual design has been, well, there have been a couple of go-rounds, but the committee has now approved conceptual design, mostly landscaping design, but also calls for paths, emphasizing the entrance off of Hibbert Road a little bit more. And the design has been recommended by the committee to go to the public. So this public meeting will be held at the CRC in room 106 on March 20th. That's Tuesday night, March 20th at 6:30 p.m. Obviously, the entire community is invited to attend, but especially those in the neighborhood who care about their park, really looking for your input. We do have the Wilmette Foundation has graciously, as we've seen like last meeting, graciously been offering their financial support for this project, and we appreciate that support. We do hope that they show up as well. So March 20th at the CRC, room 106, 6:30 p.m. Please come and review the plan and provide your community comments on the plans for K Nature Center. The second meeting, also very important for this neighborhood, is Langdon Beach and the playground at the park in Langdon. There will be a community meeting at Langdon Park there on Sheridan Road on Wednesday, April 11th, and that we don't have a time that I'm aware of. Kathy, is there any time set for that meeting?
I'd have to check.
April 11th. So we'll have to let you know.
It'll be on
We've
the
got an
website.
extra month for that one, but again, we're looking for community input. The mailings will go out to the neighbors around that park, but otherwise, to get the word out, and please come and provide your community input. Thank you.
Any questions for?
Oh, I just wanted to say that two people at Go Green came and asked about Langdon
Yes.
specifically.
Okay, good.
The playground.
The playground, yeah.
The playground area.
Okay.
So there is no design. This is a programming meeting. Come and give your comments as to what your vision for that playground ought to be or ought not to be at Langdon.
Actually, speaking of that, at the Going Green Matters, and a number of people, when I was kind of walking both booths, seemed very excited about updating K. People that have used it for years, both in the neighborhood and not in the neighborhood. So that was pretty encouraging.
It's a gem. It would be great to see it sort of restored to its glory again. Sure.
Great. Anything else? Okay, moving on to Golf Operations Committee.
Okay, so golf did not meet either since the last meeting. But one thing that everybody should know is that the new operator is in business in the restaurant, a la carte. Their first day of operations was Friday, I believe. And so anyway, that's very exciting. And then according to Nick Marfiz's Twitter feed today, he mowed grass. So that's good news. That's a sign of spring. Are you impressed that
I didn't know there was any grass to mow.
impressed that I know how to find his Twitter feed?
Well, that's...
That too.
I'm more impressed with that.
And while I have the floor, I just wanted to say to staff that I think I like the new format that you
Ew,
provided.
with the tables and all the numbers.
In the reports, it's
It's much easier to read.
Yeah, it's
I
easier
agree.
to read, and not that I don't like to read your prose, Kathy, but I mean, this is really good.
I will have to say that I was not here to write the report, so Mr. Wilson for that.
Oh, well, there you
I
go.
don't know what my marching orders.
Sorry, Kathy.
Actually, you could do anything.
So you guys passed the test that
Handle
Steve
it
and I
any way
had
you want.
going.
Was there a bet?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it comes back next month.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had a question from somebody. Is the restaurant open now?
Yeah, as of Friday.
Is it just dinner or is it lunch?
Regular hours at this time.
The contract says when the course is open, they have to be open.
Right.
But right now, it's up to them.
Right.
When they want to be open. I know that she's very excited about trying to do Easter brunches.
Oh, yeah.
And Mother's Day brunches. I know that that's one of the things that she's pushing
Are they
already.
taking reservations for
Yes.
that? Okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Great.
And I've had some correspondence with some, I think you were on the same one, some community members that were asking what was going to happen, and then once we told them who it was, their level of excitement
Yes.
rose tremendously.
Very exciting, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, hopefully it'll be good.
That's great.
Great. Okay. Anything else for golf? Hearing none. Financial Planning and Policy Committee.
All right, we had the February meeting on March 8th. We had a very full agenda, and we'll be skipping the March 26th meeting during spring break. We had a lengthy discussion on the draft memorial policy that was put together by Kathy Bingham, including trees, benches, park amenities, memorial bricks. This assignment was transferred from Parks and Rec Committee to the Financial Planning and Policy Committee. And discussion points were around pricing philosophy, standard formats, controlled messaging, renewals and discontinuance, and treatment of existing memorials that are out there already. So lots of things to consider, and we've got a really good start, I think, with what we got last week. Related to this draft, we also reviewed the naming rights policy, which was created in 1996, unbeknownst to any of us, and amended in 2006. Dealt with naming parks, but which had some applicability to the plaque issue for Barbara Rothrock. So the general consensus from the committee and the staff that we'd be able to work out something for Barbara's memory, but we haven't finalized that yet. Steve Holloway provided a recap of the annual audit process, and we're on track with no issues of concern. Nothing's happened in the last week, obviously, Steve. The field work is complete, and we should have a draft report from them on Monday. So that's moving along. We spent a fair amount of time on policy-related entertainment expenses, specifically holiday and retirement parties, retirement gifts, flowers for bereavements and illnesses. Lots of discussion around alcohol regarding cost, liability, and public perception. And the memorial policy and the update to the entertainment policy are works in progress, and we'll give another update at the May board meeting. We approved an RFP for a compensation study, the intent of which is to give more structure and integrity to our salary administration and compensation practices. Elements of the analysis will focus on grading jobs, determining market compensation rates, both salary and benefits, and then developing salary ranges, amongst other things. The final item of review was the 2017 financial statements. We ended up with a surplus of $1.6 million versus a budget of $200,000. The difference of $1.4 million due to the unspent capital. We only spent $1.9 million out of the $3.2 million we had in the budget. Some of it was real savings. Some has been carried over from 2017 to 2018 and is in the 2018 budget, and some of it's being carried over and is not in the 18 budget because we thought we were going to spend it in 17. So we're trying to find out from staff kind of what the real savings are versus what's just been moved and what impact that has cumulatively on our 2018 budget. And just of note, the budget shortfalls from golf and from property taxes were offset by improvements from the lakefront, fitness, and general rec. And the good news is, if you remember about 15, 16 months ago, we were talking about working on the health care plan and trying to get some benefit savings. Benefits were $250,000 lower than budget and $275,000 lower than the prior year, due primarily to the changes that came out of that work we did with staff back then.
That's great.
Big savings.
Yeah.
Good job.
Hey, Gordon, given your expertise in this topic, when I try to figure out where are we saving money or how are we actually doing, I tend to use our operating surplus and operating deficit as opposed to like bottom line, because you're, as you said, the timing of things. So, on that basis, I mean, it looks like we had a pretty good year in that we were almost dead on budget, right? We were only off by less than 1% overall. So we did a good job considering, everything that you were talking about.
Yeah,
before.
we had ups and downs, and the good thing about a budget like ours is it's got lots of different areas, and the weather and everything else can affect things. At the end of the day, usually they're going to offset to a large degree.
Yeah.
I have a question. You were talking about how we reviewed our health insurance. Have we looked at other, I'm not sure the last time we looked at like our just general insurance that we have.
Like the property casualty.
Right, that kind of stuff. Is that something that's up for review anytime soon, or is there any, I don't know if that's on a rotation or
I
something?
can't remember what the schedule is, but there is a rotation.
I feel like it was like every 5 years.
For that,
or
for the auditors, for our banking, there is a schedule.
There's a schedule for about a dozen of those
things.
type
Okay.
of things.
I was just curious.
Steve, what's kind of the...
That's okay.
I don't know offhand, but there is a schedule provided by my predecessor showing the time limits for each category that we use. If I recall correctly, I think we did review risk along with health because it was part of PDERMA.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
I knew it was part of PDERMA. I didn't know whether we're looking
So I think we looked at it in
changing what we do with PDERMA.
Correct.
Yeah.
In 2016, along with the health care insurance.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gordon, did you say you approved an RFP for the salary study?
Yeah, to send the RFP out.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're not spending
Someone
anything yet.
hasn't
No.
gotten that. Got it.
Any other questions? Hearing none, the last on the agenda is Real Estate Committee, but...
The Real Estate Committee did not meet this month.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next on our agenda is unfinished business. There's none listed here. Does anybody have any they'd like to present? Hearing none. New business is our next agenda item. There's no new business. And
with that, all right, so I will move to adjourn to closed session to discuss the minutes of meetings lawfully closed, whether for purposes of approval by the Board of the Minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes for the discussion of appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel of the district in accordance with Sections 2C121 of the Open Meetings Act.
I'll second that.
may we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes. We are adjourned to closed session.
Total info, weather,